Who's ready for some good news? Stay tuned. Hey everyone, Brian Anderson with Lamakia Realty here to give you this week's update with what's going on in housing. So I got some great news to talk about. We are finally starting to see an upward trend with everything that's happening with all our data streams as far as information tracking and products that help us keep an eye on what's going on in the housing market. First things first, MLS. Properties are starting to increase on MLS. That means inventory is starting to come on. You know, every time I talk to a buyer right now, it's always, well, there aren't enough houses. And then sellers get worried because they don't want to sell their home and then get into a situation where they're caught having to, step back from their deal because they can't find a house to move into. Guys, that's not a situation I want you to get in at all. So stay tuned here and we'll talk more we'll dive into the numbers. All right, so since I started doing this last week, I started talking about, if you watched my video last week, I talked about the previous 2 weeks of data that compared, the last 2 weeks with the same time period in 2019. And the numbers were not really that surprising given everything that's gone on. But now, with the spring market finally starting to take off, now that people are starting to get healthier, that people are finding ways to work in this, new norm that we find ourselves in, with wearing your mask, maintaining your social distance, and really making sure you keep yourself healthy, because guys, that's the number one priority here. The good news is for inventory that has come on the market, so inventory available to see and to purchase, we've seen about a 30% increase for our local market area. So when I'm talking about our local market area, I'm talking about the immediate greater North Attleboro area. So North Attleboro, Mansfield, Wrentham, Foxborough, Plainville, and I even branched up 495 a little bit, and we're talking Franklin too in this as well. I also included Seekonk in some of this information. So overall, in all those communities, we're seeing about a 32% increase in the properties available for purchase. Something that's important to note in those numbers specifically is that of the new properties that came onto the market, so as of the market snapshot that was taken yesterday, new properties that are available for sale increased. You had 19 properties come on in the last 2 weeks total. Okay, 19 new properties. In the last week, you've seen 26 properties come on. When you look at the numbers and you look at the charts, that's good information to have, because we're starting to see sellers become more confident with listing their homes. To go with that, there were 76 homes on the market available for purchase. Of that 76, 34% were new properties. So that's where that 26 comes from. And only 9% were properties that came back on the market. So when a property comes back on the market, something happens, something with the transaction, buyer financing, something got found in a home inspection that they don't like, and that deal was killed. So the property went back on market to be able to be sold to somebody else. And then the rest, about 40%, were properties that were already active. All right, so other information. We're going to talk about properties sold. Properties sold in our area, 139 homes. So of that 139 homes, 25% went under agreement. So that's the properties that were on the market and were active they went contingent. So they had an offer made, and then that offer got executed and it went to a purchase and sale. Purchase and sale, or properties that are under agreement, are probably 2 weeks behind our current date right now. So these properties were marked contingent probably beginning of April, and then you have time to execute your home inspection and that sort of thing, any contingencies that you might need before signing the final purchase and sale. Because once you sign that final purchase and sale, that's your deposit. Depending on how the deal is written, that's usually when you're going for this house and there's no backing out then. Of those 139 homes, 25% went contingent. So when we say 25% go contingent, that means they were active, and during that, the last couple days or so, they got marked as contingent. And when sometimes some properties will still be available for an offer, depending on what the owner wants to do with the property. But usually once it's contingent, that's essentially the same thing as sold. It's usually not available for sale, but every once in a while, there is a property that's marked contingent that can be accepting backup offers. Half of the properties, half of those 139 homes, the other 49.6 were properties that sold. So they closed escrow. Those properties, that number isn't really something you want to get too worried about, because that information is probably about a month behind our current events. So these are properties that have been in the pipeline, have been in the different stages of the home buying process, been through the contingency phase, the under agreement, and are paper signed, inks dry, and deeds recorded. That's what sold means. Bit of an uptick in the properties removed from market. So total homes that were removed from the market was only 24. So it's not that big of a deal. 30% of those were withdrawn. So people decided to just take their property off the market for whatever reason. 18% were canceled. So canceled altogether. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. And then 50% of that number, so about 12 homes, were expired. And when a property expires, it means that the deal with the listing agent, so what does this mean? It means that facts and data are continuing to see us through this crisis. That hard information that is verifiable and that is reliable and objective will get us through the next phase of this process. I'm not trying to belittle anything that's going on right now, because we are in an unprecedented time with our healthcare infrastructure, with the economy, the employment rate. Like, most of us, I should say, have ever seen anything like this in our lifetime, and hopefully most of us never will again. But right now, we are in it, people. We are in a time when we need to follow the facts and follow the data. The reason you're being told to wear a mask is because the data that we have right now shows it's one of the most effective ways to prevent community spread of the virus. All right. So 2% homes more active, so active properties available on the market. 30% more homes went under agreement or closed escrow. You're thinking about buying or selling, there are ways that we can put your home on the market and keep you and your family as safe as possible. Be sure to check down below, check out my home seller guide that will guide you through the process and through the steps that we take to make sure that you're safe. When you go to sell your home, I want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information possible. Be sure to click like, subscribe, and leave a comment down below with your email, and I'll make sure I keep in touch with you, even if you don't want to sell, even if you're just curious about how this process is happening right now. Let's connect, let's get you updated and get you on systems that we can help you search for the next home, or help you learn how we're actually keeping you safe during this time. Because again, that's the most important thing. I'm concerned for your safety, as are all the other realtors that I work with. We don't want to do this at the expense of anybody's health and well-being. So be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to stay the most up-to-date as possible on all the information that we have available for you to help sell your home.